Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 49 and we have a tasty one for you today. Today's fish is a very important fish along the Gulf of Mexico, so some of the Europeans may not know this, but they have definitely heard of this fish before, or at least the group that it's part of. Today we are going to be talking about the southern flounder. Southern flounder, or scientific name Paralichthes lithostigma. Again, that's Paralichthes lithostigma. It is part of the family Paralichtidae, which is the family of large-toothed flounders. And you can kind of see right here, you see a tooth right there, tooth poking out. These are, your more bigger, your kind of more predatory flounders. They are native to the eastern and Gulf coasts of the United States, so all up and down the eastern seaboard, and a lot of them are in the Gulf Coast. It is a left-eyed flounder, as you can see, meaning that both of the eyes on the left side is up when it is swimming, and the right side down. So there you go. As far as colors goes, usually it's kind of like this. It is a very drab body color. You're talking about brown with spots and blotches. Some of them with slightly darker brown. Some of them with slightly lighter brown. It's a pretty drab thing, but the important thing about it is that of those spots and blotches, whatever you want to call them, there are no blotches that are ringed, or spots that are ringed. That's actually how you can tell the difference between like a southern flounder and a Gulf flounder. It's hard to tell in this picture, which did not have great photographs, but you can see there's rings around these three spots right here, and that's a very, very important. As most flounders have, they have this extremely elongated dorsal fin and anal fin. Remember, these are not the fins that are on the sides of the fish. Technically, this is the top of the fish and this is the bottom of the fish. So, even though it's laying on its side, still top and bottom. So, extremely elongated form, and then they have this wedge-shaped tail, with this point right in the middle. That's pretty indicative of a lot of flounders, but there are quite a few that don't have that wedge shape. And they swim in basically an eel-like fat. So they're not using their back fin, so their dorsal anal fin. They're really using their entire body. So think like a snake or an eel. That's how they're doing, kind of whipping that tail to cause them to tell themselves. These are just kind of like for balance and to help them suction to the bottom. But speaking of suctioning on the bottom, these don't have a swim bladder. So we've talked numerous times about modifications, how fish have modified their internal air bladder for either like a sort of like a primitive lung, or they've modified it to where they can basically talk through it. They use grunts and things like that reverberate through their air bladder. These don't have one, which makes a lot of sense considering that most of the time these are found on the bottom of the ocean floor, so they need to be able to stay on the bottom. And if they had an air bladder, they would float. There you go. Just like we talked about at the Oh, I should also mention, going back to the color, I completely missed this. They can actually change their color pattern to match the substrate there. It is actually one of the more interesting things about this fish. They can definitely blend in very well, which is very important for their predation on other things. But okay, Now going back to the teeth, they almost have canine-like teeth. So think like, a dog's canines, that kind of bigger base, not the pins and needles of like your gar that are really needle-like, easy to break off, but are made for holding. These things are pretty hefty as far as teeth. In terms of size, these get to about 12 to 14 inches in length for males. Females can get up to 25 inches, so females can get significantly larger than males. Now, usually they're 1 to 5 pounds. That's about their average, which is a pretty large average. But they can get up to 20 pounds, so they can get way up there. For the non-Americans, 12 to 14 inches is like 32 to 35 centimeters. 25 inches would be about 70 centimeters. I forget the pounds to kilogram, but you're probably on a computer, you can look it up. Then I apologize for not getting them. But so females can get significantly larger, and that's really common. We've talked about this. It's really common in the fish world for females to be larger, because the larger a female is, the more eggs she can lay. These can lay usually up to 50,000 eggs at a time, and I believe they can lay eggs every 3 to 7 days. Don't quote me on that one. That was a really hard thing to find, but they can lay a ton of eggs. When the adult fish breed, they breed and spend the warmer season in embayments and shelf waters. So a little bit out there, but not too far away from the coast. And then when they breed, those eggs, even though they're incredibly small, they're free floating, and they're pushed by currents into estuary until they mature. And then the larva flounder will feed on the zooplankton. Once they mature, they'll actually eat larger invertebrates than other fish. In fact, mature southern flounders are almost considered the top predators of the Gulf of Mexico. These things eat a ton of things. They can basically eat it all. It's kind of crazy what these things are. Males will live for about 5 years, and females will live between 7 or 8 years. So they're not that long of a fish species. Long-lived of a fish species. They are a valuable species, though. They're very valuable for both commercial and recreational fishermen. Most of the commercial catch is caught as a bycatch by shrimp trawlers, and I believe they just keep them on and are able to continue processing them. Whereas recreational anglers will do it by both hook or line or night gigging, and both of those are very successful. Night gigging is where you basically take a spear and you spear them at night. But hook and line, because it's important to know, even though the flounder is on the bottom, they'll hunt and feed anywhere in the water column. So from the top to the bottom. So if they're laying on the bottom and they see something tasty, way up in there, they're going to swim up. So, they are actually pretty valuable as an aquaculture species as well. The reason why they're pretty valuable is that they can live in water of varying salinity. So they can live in very, very salty water, and they can live in almost fresh water. In fact, they've been found very far upstream in rivers, freshwater rivers in the state of Texas. I believe they said almost 100 miles upstream, which is kind of crazy. And then there's been some research being conducted on these aquaculture populations of flounder. There's research has been conducted to use a soy-based protein in their feed as a source of protein over fish meal, because fish meal not necessarily good for the environment, for the aquaculture industry. So it's a little bit better if they could find a different protein base, and they're trying to see if they can make a soy-based protein. Now, for the interesting fact, and we've actually covered this fact before on a different fish, the halibut. But it's still one of the most interesting things about this fish, about all flounders, about all flatfish. That's the fact that their eyes migrate. A lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people think that flounders are just born and they just are basically small flounders. What happens is actually the larva fish has just a normal set of eyes. You know, just one on each side of the head. And then as they get older, and not by too much, the eye will actually start shifting over the side. And they will just start shifting onto their side until they reach about 1/2 inch. And then after about 1/2 inch, the eyes are fully shifted over there. So the eye is literally just migrating through the skull to get to the other side. And then this one will get pushed down just a tiny bit. And then they'll shift their body. And it seems that about 1/2 inch is when they're fully shifted around and turned. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I'd really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again. Loving the comments. Yeah, thank you for all the love and support. It's been amazing. This channel has been growing, and couldn't do it without you. But once again, thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones.